Hey, my name is Barbie Armenta. I'm a wife, mother, life coach, and founder of Brave One. Everyone has a story, and I believe that you can be inspired in your own life by hearing another woman's courageous story. We're here to talk about purpose, identity, divorce, splitting families. If you're talking about it, I want to talk about it. We are here to have brave conversations. Welcome to today's episode, where we will be visiting with, me. Future episodes, you will hear stories from some incredible women, but today I wanted to share a little more about me. So let's jump in. I'm a wife to an amazing man. I'm a mother of 4, and I'm a Mimi to 6 adorable grandkids. But what is also true is that he's my 3rd husband. I did not come from a family of divorce, so I did not think this would be my story. But in December of 2004, I found myself walking around my house carrying just a single box. I don't even remember exactly where I got this box, but I was putting things in it that you would take in a fire, like baby books and photographs and things like that. And waited for my boys to get back home, and we left. And I did not come to that place lightly. And unfortunately, it was not my first time. I'd gotten married at 20, had my first son, and was divorced a few years later when he had begun seeing someone else. Within a couple of years, I was married to someone else, and I had only dated 1 year, and it was long distance. Once we were married, I quickly realized that there was another side to him that I did not know and I had not seen before. It was during that 12-year marriage that I had 2 more boys that I'm so grateful for, but the marriage was a cycle of verbal and emotional abuse, and in 2001, God met me right where I was. I had very little knowledge of God at that time. I had not grown up in church. I'd accepted Christ in the 5th grade because a friend had told me that that was how I would go to heaven, and I believed her. But that was it. No one followed up, and I didn't tell anyone. One day I was invited to a woman's house, and she was, all I knew was she was a Mary Kay lady. And so I thought, I have 3 boys at home. I could use a girls' night out. So I went. When I got there, I realized it was actually a prayer night. And I'm not sure at that time I wanted prayer any more than I wanted the Mary Kay products. And frankly, I was used to going to a bunco night where it was more like wine and games and conversation, and this was not that. We all sat down, and a woman started talking from a book called If You Want to Walk on Water, You've Got to Get Out of the Boat. And she shared the story of Peter, which I had never heard before, but it was a story of when all the disciples were out in the boat late at night, and a storm had come up, and they were scared. And they saw something on the water, and Peter called out and said, "Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you." And so he did. And Peter stepped out of the boat and began walking on the water towards Jesus. And as he did, he got nervous, and he looked at the storm around him, and he sank. And at that time, Jesus grabbed his hand, pulled him up, and said, "Why did you doubt?" And there was something about that story that night that I heard something different. I suddenly realized this Bible I'd never read was alive and relevant in my life, and it mattered. And what I heard her say was, if I focus on Jesus and not the storm around me, that I could do anything. And I had a lot of storm around me at that time. And so I went home. I told everyone that would listen over the next 48 hours about Peter walking on water and like how amazing it was. And over a period of time, I'm not sure how long it was, my husband said to me, "It's like you're walking around with blinders on." And I thought, oh, this actually works. This staying focused. And at that time, I just couldn't get enough of just wanted to read more of the Bible. And I did a 9-month walk through the Bible at this Methodist church that we had been visiting, and just started to absorb more and more. But also during that time, the more I got close to Jesus, the more my eyes were open to the marriage that I was in. And so one night in 2004, we were in bed, and that was often if there was the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, all the cycle that I was living in for that 12 years. It usually happened at night while the kids were in bed. So I always thought to myself, I'm protecting them. I'm taking the brunt of it. I can't provide this life for them. We lived in an affluent community on the golf course, and I knew as a single mom I wasn't going to be able to provide that. But this particular night, he left the room and I heard a crash. And I knew immediately what it was. Went in the other room and saw my Christmas tree laying in the floor. And I have memory ornaments. My son played basketball, or, my little one liked Cheerios. We had all the ornaments meant something, and they were shattered on the floor. And what I realized in that moment was that I was not protecting my boys, that this was the man that was teaching them to be men and husbands, and that was not okay. And 2 days later was when I found myself walking through that house with that one box, packing just those things that I thought, I couldn't be without, and took our clothes and went to a friend's, and then came back and waited for the boys to come home. When they did, I just told them, we're going to the store. And as I knew any outing, they would be good to go. So they hopped in the car with me and we never went back. And from that day forward, I don't want to make it sound like it was easy. It was not, but we started our life over. I found myself able to buy a house within a year, and we just found our safe place in Savannah, Texas. It was just a small town, and it was kind of far from where I had lived before. And I always say I felt like God picked me up out of my old life and put me in this new life. And even though I had found the Lord and I knew He was with me, I thought I had the dating stuff all figured out, because I thought after 2 divorces, it's too late for me. I'm not going to be able to have that wonderful marriage and big family gatherings and all the things that I had wanted in my life, because I knew that the Bible says God hates divorce, right? And I was so new in that I didn't realize He hates divorce because of how it hurts us. He doesn't hate the person that had to get divorced. And so I was making not all the best decisions, not some really bad ones actually, online dating and going out, because what was happening for me, as my counselor told me, that if someone texted me something like, "Good morning, beautiful," it was codependent crack for me. Let's put quotes around that. And it was very true, because felt great in the moment, but it was fleeting and just left me wanting more. And so what I realized is that when we are seeking for someone else to give us our value or tell us that we're worthy, that we are also giving them permission to take it away. And what I had to learn was that God gives me my value. He's already told me in His word that I am worthy, and that I need to be looking to Him and not to some guy on an online dating site. So over time, things got better, and I felt stronger, and I wasn't online dating, and I was making a life for me and my kids. And then spring break was coming around, and my kids were going to be with their dad for the whole week, and that loneliness crept back in that had been familiar before. In what felt like perfect timing, I got an email for a 7-day free trial on Yahoo Personals. I thought for sure it was a sign. I reached out to this guy that I never heard back from, and then I got an email from Richard and Irving, whose profile heading said, "Padlock looking for the right combination." I had no idea how one email would change the trajectory of my life. Next week, let's have a conversation about it as I bring on my husband, Richard Armenta, to talk about it. Thanks for joining me for today's conversation. If this resonated with you, please save this podcast to your playlist and share it with your friends. If there's a conversation that you want to hear, make sure and reach out at braveone.net and send a topic request. Until our next episode, remember to put your brave on.